When my asthmatic mother couldn't catch breath at the neighborhood barbecue, our power-hungering HOA president took her inhaler as retribution for bending petty regulations. How was she supposed to recognize my lovely struggling mom was really an undercover FBI agent probing their crooked bureau? The red and blue lights burst through our blinds as I stood there and watched the ambulance drive off with Mom aboard, all due to Eleanor Hoffman not minding her own affairs regarding our garden gnome. I was in our driveway shaking half in anger, half in fear. 10 hours ago, everything was fine. I remember the very moment Eleanor first turned her attention to us. We had just finished unloading boxes at our new place in Pinecrest Gardens when a sharp rap ended our pizza night there. She stood with her spotless white slack suit, a black notebook clutched between her neatly manicured hands. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said. Without a smile, your mailbox is non-regulation. 2 shades darker than permitted fix-it by Friday. Mom asked her in politely for pizza. Eleanor gazed at the box like it would bite her. "I prefer to keep a professional attitude," she said. "I'm the HOA president. You'll be able to find all rules in the welcome packet." There are many that was 3 months ago, ever since she'd enrolled us in trash cans, that you can see from the street they weren't Christmas lights out too long. It was January 2nd. A bird feeder that attracted pests. Mom's rose bushes too half an inch. Too tall, my car leaking oil on the driveway. It didn't Mom, who taught kindergarten for 30 years before retiring last spring, tried to make amends. She baked cookies for Eleanor, invited her to tea, even offered to help with community projects. Eleanor struck back by increasing her inspections of our property. What really irked Eleanor was Raymond the garden gnome. Dad gave Mom their last anniversary when, prior to his heart attack, he sat happily by our front stoop fishing pole. In hand, it devalues the appearance of Pinecrest Gardens. Eleanor insisted on her 4th visit in 2 weeks. "The rules allow tasteful lawn ornaments," Mom said, displaying the page in the HOA handbook. Raymond still, I saw Mom's hand tremble when she spoke. The stress was gripping her asthma at age 62. The eye condition, which had remained mild for years, was on the increase ever since Dad died last night. At the supper hour was the annual Pinecrest Gardens summer barbecue. Eleanor had made a special announcement regarding community standards in advance. When we came to the clubhouse, I sensed instantly an uncomfortable feeling. Too many eyes eyed us before promptly turning aside, happy you were able to join us with us. Eleanor declared into microphone as we sat. "I was simply discussing property values and how certain of the residents seem hell-bent on destroying them." She clicked to a PowerPoint slide that indicated our house with Raymond ringed in angry red. "This is precisely the type of tackiness that repels quality buyers," she declared. Mom stood up, Eleanor. "This is not fitting for a community meeting. The bylaws, clearly. State the bylaws. State I uphold community standards." Eleanor cut in, and your attitude had been mentioned over and over. Several neighbors appeared uneasy. A few nodded in affirmation with Mom. That gnome was a present from my deceased husband. Mom described her voice catching. I could hear the "we" starting in her chest. "The first sign of an attack. Your own attachments aren't." "We are worried," Eleanor snapped. "Take it out or get fines." Mom's breathing was strained. She fumbled into her bag for her asthma puffer as she tried to talk. "You're crossing beyond your bounds, and you're disturbing." Eleanor stormed over and pulled the inhaler out of Mom's grasp. "This action is exactly the problem." Stunned gasps emanated from the other side of the room. Mom tried to grab it back, but Eleanor stepped away. "Return it when you learn some manners," she spat coldly. Mom's face went white as she struggled for air. I leapt up, yelling for Eleanor to bring it back. 2 of Eleanor's friends, board members who consistently voted with her, remained in my path. "She needs that to breathe," I yelled. "She needs to obey authority," Eleanor replied. By dropping Mom's puffer into her designer handbag, meeting adjourned. As people began filing out, some fretted, others purposefully turned away. Mom fell down. I pushed past Eleanor's crowd and caught Mom just as she collapsed. Someone yelled 911. I sobbed as Mom's lips became blue. "Your mother suffered a severe asthma attack," Dr. Patel told us, sitting in the hospital consultation room. If you hadn't brought her with you so quickly, I couldn't finish the thought. The image of Mom struggling for air as Eleanor walked away with her inhaler cycled over and over in my head. Can I see her? I asked Dr. Patel. Nodded, she's stabilized, but we're admitting her overnight check, asking for her phone. I found Mom unexpectedly awake in her hospital bed, plugged into monitors and oxygen her. First words weren't what I expected. Did you bring my secure phone, the one in the locked drawer of my nightstand? Mom, you need to rest. I'm going to call the police on Eleanor. No, police, Mom said firmly. Not yet, get my phone first. I drove home in a day's rain, pounding on the windshield, keeping time with my thundering heartbeat. A certified letter from the HOA was stuck to our door in the rain, which was completely contrary to their own regulations. Regarding acceptance of mail within the letter, demanded a $500 penalty for rowdy conduct at a neighborhood function and threatened prosecution, if not paid within 7 days. It was signed by Eleanor and stamped with the HOA seal. Incredible, I growled. Placing it on the counter in Mom's room, I found the key just where she said stuck inside her book. Pride and Prejudice. The drawer contained a telephone I'd never seen before, and a small notebook full of what seemed to be financial entries and codes when I returned to the hospital. Mom was sitting up and looking better, but Sirius locked the door. She said I did, confused Mom. What's happening? We need to report Eleanor for sit down. Honey, Mom's voice had changed. It was calmer, more authoritative than I'd ever heard. There's something I need to tell you. She took the phone, entered a long passcode, and called Agent Katherine Reynolds. Reporting authorization code Lenine Delta 47. I need to talk to Director Swanson. Yes, it's an emergency. I gazed at my mother, my kindergarten teacher. Mother spoke to me in a different manner that night, sir. My cover can be blown. The subject has hit physical peril. Yes, she took my inhaler, which contains the tracking device. No, my identity remains intact, but we need to accelerate the timeline. When she hung up, Mom saw the surprised look on my face inside. I'm not just a retired kindergarten teacher. Spoke quietly to me. I've worked with the FBI for 35 years. Financial Crimes Division. I laughed nervously. Very funny, Mom. You taught Mrs. Peterson's children, and half the town I did teach. Yes, that was my cover for the past 10 years. She reached into her hospital gown and produced a chain with a badge I'd never seen. But this is who I really am. That's real. I touched the metal badge, feeling suddenly dizzy. Eleanor Hoffman has been operating a huge money laundering scheme through the HOA for years. Mom described, her voice soft. I've been tracking transactions in 5 different homeowners associations. That's why we moved here after your father's passing. Dad knew. I whispered your father was my handler until he retired 5 years ago. We weren't supposed to fall in love, but we did. He continued to be around as my buddy until his heart attack. I felt the world spin. All the things that I thought I knew about my family were just upturned. The asthma I began has a real chance, Mom assured. But the inhaler Eleanor took has a sophisticated recording apparatus, built in, which has been monitoring her meetings and calls. Whenever I am with her, she has only made one greatest mistake in taking federal property. A discreet tap on the door interrupted us. Mom hastily covered her badge and motioned me to open up 2 figures, dressed in business attire. Stood outside a tall black woman and a young man with glasses. Agents Clark and Rodriguez, the woman said softly, holding up her badge. We need to speak with Agent Reynolds. They entered, closing the door behind them. Katherine, we've been watching on matters, Agent Clark stated. Director Swanson approved instant action. Based on the medical danger, Eleanor summoned an emergency HOA board meeting for tomorrow morning to inform on our ongoing infractions. I mentioned she sent a notice before confiscating Mom's inhaler. The agents exchanged a look. Impeccable timing. Mom clarified quarterly. HOA payments were learned last week. If she's regular, the money will transfer tomorrow. After meeting, we'll be fully manned. We'll have a full team agent. Rodriguez assured your hospitalization strengthens our case. Really, it does. It's adding assault to the fiscal crimes charges. What am I supposed to do? I asked my kindergarten teacher, Mom, still struggling to come to terms with this calm federal agent discussing shop. Mom reached out for my hand. Go home, behave. Normally attend the meeting tomorrow and document everything. Agents will be close by. But we need you to be our eyes and ears. Won't Eleanor be suspicious when you're not around? Mom smiled ruthlessly. Oh, I'll be there. Dr. Patel is really Agent Patel. I'll be released in the morning. I drove home in a state of shock, almost missing the 3 black SUVs parked secretly along various streets in our home neighborhood. The Gardang gnome. Raymond seemed to wink at me under the porch light. I wondered if he too was part of this grand cover story sitting on our couch. I pulled out photo albums looking at my parents' life anew. Dad's government work accounting, Mom's teaching profession, that always seemed to switch districts every few years. The professional conferences they went to alone. Then I noticed something in a family beach photo. Dad's watch, the same odd model I'd seen on Agent Rodriguez's arm. If I'd lived all my life among FBI agents and not knowing just after midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number operation underway at 0900 standby. I looked out of the window at our empty suburban street and wondered what would happen when Eleanor Hoffman had a realization that she'd not just stolen an inhaler from a sick old woman, she'd stolen federal property from an FBI agent who'd been building a case against her for months. Blood pounded in my ears as Mom grasped my arm outside the community center. Listen closely, she whispered. I need you to act surprised when I state who I am. This operation surpasses Eleanor's petty power trip. Inside, each seat was filled. Neighbors hushed and gestured as we entered. Eleanor sat at the middle table, surrounded by her faithful board members, Stuart and Diana. My mom's inhaler sat in front of her like a trophy. Late as meant to be, Eleanor smirked, glancing at her diamond-studded timepiece we'd called this special meeting, to address the Reynolds chronic infractions and disruptive tendencies. Mom shuffled forward, shoulders hunched, playing the frail asthmatic perfectly. I bit back a whimper, impressed by her thespian abilities for 8 months. I'd seen her fight with stairs and carry an oxygen tank for especially awful days, all an act. Before we begin, Eleanor kept tapping a pile of papers. I want everyone to view the records of the Reynolds 17 infractions this year alone. She projected photographs onto the wall, our mailbox mom's rose bushes, even our last year's Halloween decorations. As you can see, she waved dramatically. These individuals have no respect for our community standards. And yesterday, Miss Reynolds had the nerve to experience a medical episode during my speech, simply to divert attention from her violations. Gasps filled the air. Even Eleanor's supporters looked uncomfortable. You stole my medication. Mom wheezed. I could have died. I seized a disruptive prop, Eleanor corrected, holding up the inhaler. If you were really ill, you'd have gone to a hospital, not attempted to humiliate me publicly. Mom's hand shook as she reached into her purse. I steeled myself, anticipating what was to come. I did go to the hospital, Mom said, her voice suddenly firm. She pulled out her badge, holding it aloft. And now I'm placing you under investigation. Eleanor Hoffman. The room erupted into confusion. 2 agents emerged from the back door in dark suits and firm faces. This is Agent Katherine Reynolds, stated the taller agent. She's been leading our investigation into financial irregularities within HOA activity in 3 counties. Eleanor's face contorted with disbelief. This is absurd, she's lying. Mom rose up to her full height, all pretenses of weakness discarded. That inhaler you so proudly displayed contains a recording device which has recorded all of our discussions, including your confession yesterday about with HOA funds for your Aspen vacation property. You can't tape me without my knowledge. That's illegal, Eleanor yelled. Not when it's a part of a federal money laundering probe, Mom replied calmly. We have bank statements tracking over $200,000 in resident fees, funneled into personal accounts. We have evidence of changed financial reports. And now, because of your over-the-top flash of power. And today we have you on tape, confessing to knowingly placing in harm's way a federal agent by withholding necessary medical equipment. Eleanor groped for the inhaler, but one of the agents got to it first. This is federal property, ma'am, Stuart. And Diana began stepping back from Eleanor. But Mom shook her head. Don't make your signatures appear on the forged documents too. My neighbor Tasha sat up shaking. They fined me $2,000 when my husband was sent overseas because our lawn grew too long while I was away. Attending my mother's funeral. This opened the floodgates. Neighbors wailed injustices, excessive fines, arbitrary regulations, selective enforcement, silent. Eleanor yelled, slamming her fist on the table. This community would be destroyed without my leadership. These people are trying to tear down all that we have accomplished. Mom calmly opened a laptop showing financial records on the wall. Residents of Pinecrest Gardens. These are your HOA financial statements. For last 3 years, highlighted entries have money sent to Shell-owned companies, Mrs. Hoffman and her associates. Eleanor rolled over in her chair as she was standing. You will be sorry, my husband plays golf with Senator Wilson. Senator Wilson will know well enough, our mom answered. In fact, his office fielded numerous complaints regarding predatory HOA tactics as agents, Eleanor Stewart and Diana, outside the neighbors, closed us in with questions and thank yous. Mom stood up, hand for silence. There is something else you'd know, she said. Pine Gravely Crest Gardens was only one. We've found similar in 12 communities. Statewide, Eleanor's group has been using these residential associations as fronts to move money from less legitimate ventures. Tomorrow's paper will print the whole story, while the room was abuzz with shock. I at last regained my voice. Why didn't you tell me? I asked Mom on the way home. In the collecting light, she clamped my hand. Because your true responses sold my cover story. I could not afford Eleanor to suspect anything. She lingered in our driveway, gazing at our home with fresh eyes. 2, I did not know how far this reached. I had to protect you. I glared at this woman. I thought I knew. So the asthma real? Unfortunately, she exhaled. I've had it since childhood. I just hyped the symptoms for the assignment. The Bureau thought my condition made me the best undercover agent who would suspect someone who only gets through climbing stairs with wheezing. As we got to our door, Mom's phone rang. Her face clouded over as she listened. We have to go back, she said. You are urgently. They found something in the community center basement. Flashlights cutting through darkness as we hurried back to the community center, yellow crime scene tape already shrouding the entry. Mom flashed her badge at the guard officer, and he lifted the tape for us. What did they find? I whispered as we descended narrow stairs. I didn't know there were documents. Mom said Turley, lots of them. The basement smelled of musty, unused metal shelves against concrete walls stacked with dusty holiday items and broken pool furniture. But agents noticed a section of wall that had been relegated to reveal a secret room. Katherine, good timing, a rumpled suit-clad man, invited us over. Your intuition was right. This goes beyond neighborhood corruption. In the secret room, stacks of files reached the ceiling. Computer equipment hummed in one corner, next to what looked like a professional printing press. Identity theft. Mom questioned, pulling on latex gloves. And more, the man replied. Producing a folder, we found evidence implicating Eleanor's crew with at least 3 criminal businesses across state boundaries. They've been laundering funds in HOA fees, but they've also been creating phony identities, utilizing residence data. My stomach fell. You mean they've been appropriating our identities? Our neighbors' identities, not simply stealing them. Another agent phoned from beyond a computer. They've been marketing packages, new names, credit reports, background, high-quality stuff that could mislead most security checks. Mom opened the folder and gasped. Within were true copies of passports, driver's licenses, and social security cards, all bearing photos of individuals I knew from our neighborhood, but with different names. They've been experimenting with our community as a lab, Mom explained, making fake identity, using real people, then selling them to criminals. That's why Eleanor was so obsessed with taking photos at every community event. I realized she wasn't taking recordings. She was gathering photos for phony IDs. Mom squeezed my shoulder, and why she hated your garden gnome so much. Your security camera hidden inside may have caught her late-night visits to this basement. I blinked in surprise. Wait, you knew about my gnome camera. Who do you think suggested the brand? Mom winked. I must have added observation, but couldn't wear official attire without blowing my cover. An agent shouted from a corner. We've got digital records. Looks like transactions over 3 years. Mom glared at the computer screen, her expression grim. This is more than we thought, these payments. Trace back to shell companies in 7 nations. Is that why the FBI was brought in? I asked. This looks way beyond normal HOA issues. Mom nodded. We had seen reports of suspicious financial dealings in several small HOAs, inexplicably purchasing high-cost security systems. Landscaping companies receiving triple market rates, old-fashioned money, laundering signs. But we never dreamed we would accidentally find an identity theft ring beyond more. Cars arrived, residents poured out onto the street. Watching in amazement as agents took box after box of evidence, Tasha appeared beside me. Is it true? Eleanor was stealing our information before I could respond. A commotion broke outside a police car. Eleanor had succeeded in freeing her handcuffs and was trying to escape. 2 officers were quick to reapprehend her, but not before she made eye contact with me. You regret this, she hissed. They'll come for all of you when they find out their operation is compromised. Mom stepped forward. Who will come? Eleanor, give us names and we can protect you. Eleanor's laugh sent chills down my spine. You think I'm the mastermind? I'm just the area manager. There are 50 such communities as they took Eleanor away in the police van. Mom took me aside. We need to discuss your safety. In this case has become much larger back home. Mom placed calls and I tried to maintain our quiet neighborhood. Had been used as a cover for international crime. My mother was a great federal agent, and out somewhere, individuals were very angry that their operation had been busted. Pack a bag, Mom said, hanging up the telephone. Just essentials for a couple of days. We're going, but what do we do with our home? Our neighbors? Protection units are being dispatched to every house, she said, already packing her own bag. But you and I have to report to a safe location. Eleanor's employers will soon realize that I'm the agent who penetrated their business. I seized photo albums and my computer. Where are we going? Witness protection for a while. She gave me a new phone. This is safe. Your old one stays here. A knock on the door made us both stand there. Mom pulled a gun. I did not know she possessed, and crept slowly through the peephole. She loosened up a bit. It's Agent Michaels, she whispered to me. Opening the door, the tall agent from earlier entered quickly. We have to get out now. We've intercepted communications. They know who you are, Katherine? In minutes, we were in an unmarked vehicle, leaving the only neighborhood I'd known for the last year. As streetlights whizzed by, Mom squeezed my hand. I'm sorry I had to lie to you, she said softly. This assignment was meant to be easy. Collect evidence of financial crimes. Build a case against local corruption. Will we ever return? I asked, as our house disappeared around a corner. Yes, she promised. But first, we must assist in breaking up this whole network 6 months on. We stood in our driveway once again. The house seemed just as we had left it, though the garden had gone wild. New security cameras watched the street, less subtly concealed than my gnome had been. The trial made the national headlines. FBI uncovers massive criminal network operating through homeowners associations. Eleanor and her associates were handed lengthy sentences. Her mysterious bosses were still being sought, but their operation had been dashed. Our neighbors flung open their arms and welcomed us home with a block party. The newly created HOA board led by Tasha had but one rule: be kind. What are you going to do now? Tasha asked Mom while we snacked hamburgers in the very same park where it had all started. Actually retire. Mom giggled, handing her real inhaler. My asthma, not pretend. And chasing crooks is a young agent's game. I smiled, watching her chat to neighbors now, who looked at her with respect rather than pity. My mother had taught me the best lesson: never judge anybody by appearance. Because for the garden gnome who had the spy camera, we stood it in an area of honor next to our front entrance. A reminder that sometimes the smallest thing does the biggest.